What is charisma and why does it matter?
What people don't realize is that charisma, more than any other attribute, is the single most important aspect of you being successful. It helps you in your relationships, it helps you professionally, it helps people take you seriously. It helps you also feel more confident and purposeful in your interactions. So, charisma is that missing ingredient that we need to trigger or activate our success.
Wow. I mean, you hear so much about confidence, you hear about extroverts versus introverts, but how is it that charisma impacts all those things more than your personality or confidence?
When research looks at highly charismatic people, they find that we are looking for people who are signaling high charisma because it shows all those other things. Highly charismatic people are confident, they are competent, they are warm, they are likable. And so the most amazing aspect of charisma is it can be learned. It is not an innate trait. You don't have to be born with it or not. That anyone can learn how to be more charismatic through a very specific set of cues.
That's crazy. And you say that you were very awkward before you leveraged all the cues you're about to teach us. Will you tell us a little bit about what you struggled with?
So what's funny about charisma, I've always been fascinated by this trait. I'm a recovering awkward person. So charisma does not come naturally to me. I've always been fascinated by the cool kids. I watch them and I'm like, oh, how do they know what to do? And so I was for many years trapped by this mistaken belief that to be charismatic, you have to be extroverted. You have to be bubbly, you have to be the life of the party. And I am not an extrovert. And so I always thought, well, I guess I can't have it. It's an innate trait, you have to be extroverted. What research actually finds is that charisma has nothing to do with your extroversion, your attractiveness, your athleticism, even your intelligence. The actual definition of highly charismatic people, what makes them different is they send a very specific set of social signals. Specifically, they are constantly signaling high warmth, so trust, likability, friendliness, along with, and this is the key, a balance of high competence, capability, power, effectiveness. And what's magical about this is if you're with someone and you are drawn into them, you immediately are able to answer two questions. I can trust you and I can rely on you. And so highly charismatic people, that's what they're signaling, warmth and competence at all times.
Wow. Okay. So let me see if I just can bottom line this.
Yes.
So, charisma, if you have charisma or you display charisma, I guess is what I should say.
Yes.
If you display charisma, other people are left with the impression that they can trust you and that they can count on you. Is that
Yes.
right?
That is exactly right. And the hard part about this is you can be the warmest, most competent person in the world. But if you don't show those signals, the world does not believe you. And this comes from amazing research out of Princeton University, which found that under signaling, so not signaling enough, and this is what happens, I think, with very smart people. So most of my students are off the charts intelligence, high achievers, and they think, oh, my smarts will speak for me, right? I'm really smart. I can make it through anything. I'm super prepared. I have great answers. And the problem is they under signal the warmth and competence cues. And what Dr. Fisk found, the creator of this research, she found that without enough warmth, people do not believe your competence. So the problem of smart people is they think their smarts work for them, but if they're not using the right signals, the world literally cannot believe them.
Wow. That's so is this why charisma matters?
So I think of charisma like a lubricant, right? So when we're in social
That's
interactions,
sexy.
a
That's
social
not
lubricant.
exactly the word I was that I thought that or the metaphor I thought you were going to use. Okay, so charisma
It makes
is a
everything
social
smooth.
lubricant, everybody.
Yeah, it
Okay.
makes it smooth, it makes it smooth. Because listen, my social interactions before I learned this science were like the opposite of smooth. They were crunchy, like not in a good way, right?
Okay,
Like,
so you said you were awkward. Give us an example. Come
yes,
on, Vanessa.
I'm a recovering awkward person. So awkwardness, let's talk about awkwardness is one of my favorite topics. Awkwardness dresses up in different ways. So my awkwardness, and everyone has different things. So I'm curious, Mel, if you have any awkwardness, how it dresses up. Some people, they feel awkward because of fear. Their fear of being rejected, fear of being criticized, fear of saying something silly or sounding stupid. And so their awkwardness will dress up as shutting down. So for me, my awkwardness, I'm an overthinker. I'm the
Mm.
person who I get in bed at the end of the night and I literally rethink every conversation I've had the whole day. Right. Or like I overanalyze my answers before I even say anything, which makes me a
Mhm.
terrible conversationalist and listener. So my awkwardness would make me shut in, shut down. And so my introverts listening, this is often what happens when you feel awkward. You're afraid of a silence or being judged. You shut in, you close down, you stop talking. Other people, my extroverts, their awkwardness dresses up as something else. Their awkwardness dresses up as showing off, over the top, being a drama queen, talking too much. Some of my extroverted awkward friends, they'll say, sometimes I just can't stop talking. Literally, my mouth just keeps going. And so awkwardness is this really interesting way that we try to cover our fear. And so when I say I'm a recovering awkward person, I've had to conquer a lot of internal fear to be able to have interactions that I desperately, desperately want to have. That could be in a professional setting, sharing my ideas, but it also could be just trying to make good friends, trying to be open with my partner. And so I think that charisma is this lubricant because awkwardness makes our relationships, our conversations, our communication crunchy, awkward, halty. We talk too much. We talk too little. There's an awkward silence. We don't know what to do with our hands, right? We're like, what do I do with my body language? We make weird faces. We awkwardly nervous laugh. So my goal with charisma, what I've found is that it's a smoother, it's a lubricant, which we have to stick with that metaphor.
Well, it's
It makes it
hilarious, and it
easier.
also makes when you use the word crunchy about those moments when you feel awkward, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because whether you're an overtalker, oversharer, nervous laugh, interrupting people because you're extroverted, but you feel afraid of how people are going to view you, or whether you withdraw because you're afraid, that crunchiness is that sort of disruption you feel internally. And so I love this idea that charisma, which you say is a skill that anybody can develop,
Mhm.
that charisma helps you be yourself and it helps you be more influential and it helps you enjoy social settings whether you're introverted or extroverted. That's what I'm kind of getting from this.
Oh, that's it. And so I think that what we're looking for here is a lot of people talk about confidence, and I love confidence, but I am not naturally confident. And so what would happen is I would say, just be more confident. Like I would, I'd be like trying to mantra myself into it. And if you tell someone who's awkward to just stop being awkward, it doesn't work.
Oh,
So
it
what
just
I would
makes you more awkward, I think,
say,
because then you're now focused on the fact that you're awkward.
it's like a meta, right? Like I worry that I'm a worrier and that makes me
Hmm.
worry. So, right. So like, it's like a horrible meta. So what I say is, okay, I like confidence, but let's put it to the side for a second. Let's talk about being purposeful. Purposeful is much more impactful and active. It's an active emotion. Okay. So if I say, I want to show up in this interaction as highly charismatic, I want to be my warmest self and my most confident self. And I want to clearly signal with purpose to the other person, I am trustworthy and likable, but I can also get it done. I'm powerful and capable. The key here is the balance. Most of us have an imbalance. So there's 4 segments of the population. This is what the research finds. There's the sweet spot of highly charismatic people, high warmth, high competence. That's the rare birds among us who
Now,
are
can
able
you
to
give us
balance.
an example of somebody who is highly charismatic?
Let's do the classic. Oprah. Okay. Oprah is highly charismatic, and here's why. She can be in an interview and she can make the other person feel so comfortable. They share their darkest secrets. That's warmth.
Hmm.
That's trust. She can cry with the other person. She can mimic their facial expressions. Her warmth literally draws out other people's warmth. However, you also take her very seriously. You know she is smart. She knows her answers. You can't sneak something by her. And that's her signaling, I'm competent. I'm going to make sure that I get to the truth here. You can rely on me to ask the hard questions. That's the perfect example. What Oprah does and what most charismatic people do, which I want to teach everyone who's listening how to do, is you can use charisma like a dial. It's just like a thermostat. So in some situations, when you want to dial up a little bit extra warmth, you can use more warmth cues. And Oprah does this exceptionally well. In her hard-hitting interviews, she'll dial up competence. She'll hit them with the hard
Right.
questions. Go watch her interview with Lance Armstrong. I talk about Lance Armstrong a lot in the book. I pick on him a lot. Her interview with Lance Armstrong, she is high competence. She has just enough warmth to make him feel comfortable, but she asks hard questions. Versus some of her other interviews, she's dialing up warmth. She wants to make the other person feel comfortable. So that's an example of someone who's very nice balance and kind of uses her warmth and competence as a dial. Let's look at, for example, Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs is often,
Zero warmth.
am I?
No, zero warmth.
Zero
Steve
warmth. I was
Jobs,
like, oh,
zero
I know.
warmth. The guy's a jerk.
Zero warmth. So he is the perfect example of high competence. He's constantly signaling, take me seriously. I'm powerful. And most importantly, what highly smart people don't realize is if they over signal competence, people see them as cold, intimidating, not a collaborator, not a team player, hard to talk to. So yes, he was brilliant, but his lack of warmth made people feel like he wasn't a collaborator. He wasn't a good team player. And his legacy is changing the world, but also being not kind. So that's an example of high competence. My highly smart people, my engineers, my really technically brilliant folks, they often get trapped in high competence because they don't know how to signal warmth. By the way, they might have all the intention to be a collaborator, but we are not taught how to signal warmth. And so they go, well, guess I don't know how to do that. So that's
Wow.
high
Okay.
competence. That's one bucket. And by the way, so as you're listening, I want you to think about what sounds like you, what feels like you. So do you feel like you have the balance? Do you feel like, no, you're off the charts in competence? You know, you're high in competence if people always think you're in charge. You know, you're high in competence if people have ever told you that you're intimidating or hard to talk to. You know that you're in a relationship or have a partner who's high in competence if they constantly Google fact check you. So highly competent folks, their mission is to get it right. They're very dominated by the idea of get it right, get the facts. And so they'll be in a conversation with you and be like, let me Google fact check that. Let me just see if that's right.
Do they share their emotions if they're high competent?
Usually less. They're much less comfortable sharing their emotions because vulnerability, sharing emotions is an aspect of warmth. So that is one way that competent people can hack warmth, is sharing more of their emotions. But usually they don't like that as much because emotions aren't correct, right? It's hard to be right with emotions. So they'll often, the reason why a highly competent partner, I have one of those, is I'm going to use the word afraid of emotions or uncomfortable with emotions, is because it can't be fact checked, right? If someone says as a partner, I feel upset with you, how do you verify that? How do you fix it? Where's the solution? A highly competent partner, they love solving things, right? You come to them and you're like, I'm just having a bad day. And they're like, let me fix that for you. And you're like, I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to listen. And they're like, or, no, I don't know how to do that, because they're fixers.
Got it.
So highly competent people, you have that super strength of getting it right, being fixers. Warm folks, my warm folks. So my highly warm folks, you are filled with empathy, you're cheerleaders, you're supporters, your mission. So if competent people want to get it right, highly warm people want to be liked. They want everyone to feel good. They want everyone to feel comfortable. Typically, highly warm folks, their super strength is empathy, nurturing, making people feel loved and warm, but they often give too much of themselves in sacrifice of being liked.
Got it. So like people-pleasing doormats is what you're talking about.
That's the far end. People
Yes.
pleasing is what they struggle with. And so I think that highly warm folks in the workplace, this is the other really important thing to understand, is if you are highly warm, you are fighting a battle in yourself, which is your desire to be liked gets in the way of your need to be respected.
Okay, stop. I need everybody to hear that. If you default and you are too warm, especially at work, your need to be liked is getting in the way of your need to be respected.
Yeah.
And when you are too focused on getting it right and too focused on being smart and too focused on dominating the conversation or the knowledge bank, your need to be right is dominate. How did you say your need to
Your
be
need to be
right?
right is getting in the way of your need to be liked.
Yes. Yes. Your need to be right is getting in the way of your need to be liked. That even rhymes. That's amazing.
I didn't even do that on purpose.
I want to go back to something in the very beginning that we were talking about.
Yes.
So when I asked you what is charisma,
Yeah.
and you said it has nothing to do with personality, it has nothing to do with introversion or extroversion, it is not about being confident, that charisma is something that you display to other people, correct?
Yes.
And charisma matters because if you have charisma, people trust you, they like you, they count on you, which I would think means it makes you more influential, it makes you more successful, it makes you have greater influence. Is that what the benefits of charisma are?
Influence, impact, and income. So the reason
Whoa,
why, yeah,
hold on. So charisma
yeah,
impacts the three I's.
the three I's, all three of them. Why? If you are warm and competent, you are less likely to be underestimated. You're less likely to be dismissed and doubted. Why? We are attracted to highly charismatic people because charisma is contagious. And they have actually proven this in the lab. The more charismatic you are, the more you clearly and purposefully, I keep using the word purposeful on purpose, the more clearly you signal warmth and competence, the more contagious you are. We like to be around warm, competent people because they make us more warm and competent. And so nonverbal signals, vocal signals, verbal signals, we are constantly aware of because we want to catch them. So the reason why we're drawn to people who are that influence piece, that influence or impact piece, is because we are influenced by people who we want to be contagious with.
Mm.
We also want to be more warm and competent. So if we're around someone who's warm and competent, it makes us feel like our best selves. If you think about the most charismatic person you know, so just think about them for a second, they make you feel better. They make you feel like your best self. That's the difference, I think, between, for example, a highly charismatic person and a narcissist, right? Like, this is not just about confidence. It's about someone who actually is positively infectious. And
Hmm.
they've proven this with both negative and positive cues. So, for example, Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA, he flashed people a fear microexpression. So fear microexpression is when we raise our eyebrows up our forehead and we widen our eyes so our whites show and we take in a deep breath. So we go,
Yes.
so that expression, if he flashes that expression to someone in a fMRI, their amygdala, where they process fear, begins to activate. We catch the fear. Literally just seeing someone with a fear face makes us feel afraid. The most important part of this experiment, though, is the moment that someone labeled the fear. So in their head or out loud said, fear, it deactivated their amygdala.
Hmm.
In other words, being aware of the cues that are being sent to us, both negative and positive, makes us aware of who is infecting us. So that influence, that impact is that highly charismatic people are so clear with their signals. It's like they're gifting, another Oprah reference, they're gifting warmth for you, competence for you, charisma for you, and not charismatic people, people who are anxious, afraid, awkward, they are signaling negative cues. That's why we don't want to be around them. We don't want to catch that fear, right? Like, we don't want that fear. And so we're like, whoa, I don't like those signals. And so we avoid them as much as we possibly can.
You know what I love about your research? What I love is that, first of all, you're about to teach us all how to become more charismatic. You're
Oh, yes.
also about to give us hacks related to body language and getting intentional about what we're displaying and signaling. But
Yes.
what I also love about your research is that I need everybody listening to understand something. Right now, you are unintentionally sending signals and cues to people.
That's it.
You are walking around, and whether it's a negative mood or it's anxiety or it's insecurity or it's awkwardness, or you're so focused on being right that you don't realize that you're sending signals and cues that make people not like you and not trust you, or you're so focused on being liked and that you're sending these signals of being a warm pushover, which is why you're never respected and why you're passed over at work. And so, what I love about this research is that you're helping us focus on two factors that you can display that will increase influence, impact, and income. And it doesn't matter whether you're shy or whether you're bossy. These strategies are going to work for all of us. Oh boy, are you and I in for a treat today? We are going to talk about the hacks and tips and tricks and research that you can put to use in your own life so that you appear more confident to other people.